Mike, Pittsburg, PA. Go ahead. You're on the Wilkow Majority.
Hey, thanks, Andrew, for taking my call. Just wanted to make a couple quick points. I was calling about the economy, but given what the argument you were making as far as Michael Moore's comment, I just wanted to say I think you kind of missed the point of his argument. Even though I don't think that Michael Moore speaks for.
Well, go ahead and explain it to me.
Country, but,
I'll give you time on the. Hold on. I'll give you time on the economy and to explain Michael Moore. So go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate it. So as far as Michael Moore, I think what his main point was that obviously to have 500 home invasion murders is that's a tragedy in itself. But if we consider 500 murders for our entire country, which is 50 states over the course of a year, we're talking about an average of 10 per year per state. So it's something that's obviously out there, and it's obviously that's something that could happen to anyone if you're not careful. But there's clearly.
How are you not being careful? He said home invasion. How are you not being careful being in the privacy of your own home?
Well, no, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with owning a gun, and I'm not arguing for any sort of gun ban. All I'm saying is that what his point was just that the level of fear that people might have of a home invasion on their own home is probably disproportionate to the actual chance.
So what? So what? No, his argument was the same thing that Van Jones says about the environment. Well, you're polluting the ghetto. You're disproportionately harming black people. If you disagree, you're a racist. He was basically saying that white people have an irrational fear of, or he actually said reasoned fear. He said more likely than not, the person that's going to break into your home to kill you is going to be a person of color. And you being prepared for that, you're a racist.
Okay, well, if his argument was that...
You heard what he said. Don't say if. You know exactly what he said.
I heard what he said, but what I'm saying is I think his main focus was just that people have the level of fear that they have is out of proportion because people have specific groups that they're more afraid of. For example, he was talking about, I'm sure in Arizona, obviously with the tension over immigration.
But Mike, we don't have a government that gets involved in thought crimes. If I buy a weapon and I have a vision of my attacker in my head, as politically incorrect as that may be, so long as that person doesn't break into my house to kill me, they're safe from my irrational fear.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a gun in your own house. I'm just saying I don't think Michael Moore really speaks for the left here, but I also don't think that I don't think that his point was that everyone who buys a gun, it has some sort of irrational fear that a black person is going to come and murder them.
Well, that's what he said.
All right, well, then we'll just agree to disagree. But just one other analogy.
How can we agree to disagree? You heard him in plain English. I heard him in plain English. I know exactly what he said. This isn't a negotiation.
Okay, well, let me just give you an analogy and see what your take is on it. After September 11th, we had a lot of conservatives, such as people like Ann Coulter, saying that we know who our attackers are going to be. They look like Muslims. You know what I mean? So we know we don't need to be looking out for an 80-year-old grandma at the airport. We need to be looking for Muslims. But it turns out, for example, with the Tucson shooting, that just an everyday person can be going to the supermarket and you can just have someone that you wouldn't suspect was some sort of murderer, and it turns out that they can actually be your attacker.
Yeah, but after the Fort Hood shooting, we were told not to fill in the blanks and jump to conclusions.
Which I agree with. I'm just saying, ultimately, if someone buys a gun for their own home, it doesn't really matter who the attacker would be. It's just if there was any legitimacy to Michael Moore's point, it was just that. No,
he was doing what shallow thinking progressives always do, which is if you make it racial, then anyone who disagrees is a racist and therefore bad and excluded from debate. Now let's get to your economics thing.
As far as the economy, I watched. I'm sure you watched the State of the Union. Well, I'm not sure, but my guess is that you watched the State of the Union.
Every minute of it.
And did you watch Michelle Bachmann's response?
No.
No. Okay. So in her response, she talked a little bit about.
I'm not Michelle Bachmann.
Oh no. Look. I'm not gonna charge you with the statements that she made. Obviously, you'd be in trouble if that was the case. But I do think that the overall. conservatives have this theme that when Bush left office, the economy was okay, and then the moment that Obama came into office, things got worse.
No, conservatives will tell you that the economy was rebounding from 9/11 until the Democrats took over Congress in 2006, and it started to go into the tank in 2007.
But so it wasn't something specific to Obama or Obama's stimulus that caused our economy to go into the tank.
$862 billion of deficit spending that produced absolutely nothing didn't help it, sir.
Well, I wouldn't say it produced nothing. For example, if you look at our private sector.
Okay, hold on. Don't do this. Just tell me what the unemployment rate is.
The unemployment rate?
Did it go above 8%?
Of course, it went up above 8%.
Well, no. The promise, cross my fingers, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye, was that if we don't go ahead with the stimulus package, unemployment will rise. If we do, we can guarantee, they guaranteed, Mike, that it wouldn't go above 8%. Guaranteed.
Conservatives always use this line, but they never cite it. Cite me where Obama says, I guarantee that if we pass the stimulus, unemployment won't go above 8%. You won't find that. You might find one of his economic advisors saying that we believe that passing the stimulus will keep unemployment below 8%. But the bottom line is we had a terrible recession.
Listen, when Christina Romer speaks on the economy, as a member of the administration, she speaks with the authority of the president. He never once corrected her, and he didn't kick her out. She quit on her own. So when the administration speaks, it speaks with the voice of Obama.
So because the unemployment rate went higher than economists anticipated, that means that the entire stimulus must have been a failure.
Okay, point to a success of it.
So the success is that when Obama came into office, we were losing jobs at the worst rate that we had over the past decade, which was roughly, I believe, 850,000 jobs that we lost in Bush's last month in office.
Okay.
With Obama in office, during the first year, he had to stem the tide, which kind of means, as a football analogy, if you come into a 0-12 football team and your next season you go 4-8, okay, you still don't have a winning record, but at least you're making some progress. Then roughly 1 year into the Obama administration, we were breaking even, and then for the past 12 months, we've had positive job growth in the private sector. So I think that's at least some benefit.
And you think that that's because of the stimulus?
I'm not saying all I'm saying is that the stimulus, I don't think.
Mike, the dynamic you've just described is that if you have people on the east side of the swimming pool and people on the west side of the swimming pool, you could promise the people on the west side of the swimming pool that if we take a bucket from the east side of the swimming pool and dump it in on the west side is now exponentially deeper.
Well, a third of the stimulus.
Mike, let me explain something to you. The reason why the unemployment rate didn't change for every job the government so created, it did so with confiscated capital from the private sector where a job was lost in the process.
What about the third of the stimulus that was tax cuts? I'm sure that was okay, right?
Tax cuts are great if they're not made by politics, meaning, well, we're going to cut taxes for that guy, but they're not that guy. Do you believe in equal protection under the law?
Yes. But
then why don't we equally pay taxes under the law?
Well, you're saying a flat tax?
Equal protection under the law, right? We treat all citizens equally. How is it that 47% of the people that send the money to Washington get it all back if we have equal protection under the law?
All right, well,
you have a nice day on that one. Thank you very much for the call. If the government confiscates capital from the private sector to create jobs have to be lost in the private sector to compensate. If the stimulus package worked the way Mike said it did, then why didn't the president laud its successes last night? All we heard from the president, if you need the quotes, let me see if I could find them real quick, about how our infrastructure is second best at best. Let's see here. First step in winning the future, Sputnik moment. That was ridiculous. Oh, here we go. If the stimulus package worked, if the 862, first it was a stimulus package, then it was a stabilized package. But it was going to build the infrastructure that was needed and put people back to work. If that was successful, why did he say this? And I quote, The third step to winning the future is rebuilding America to attract new business to our shores. We need the fastest, most reliable ways to move people, goods, and information from high-speed rail to high-speed internet. Our infrastructure used to be the best, but our lead has slipped. South Korean homes now have greater internet access. Countries in Europe and Russia invest more in roads and railways than we do. China is building faster trains and newer airports. Meanwhile, our own engineers graded our nation's infrastructure. They gave us a D. So you're telling me that the $664 billion spent by Bill Clinton and President Bush on infrastructure and the $862 billion spent by Barack Obama, we still have a failing grade. We're still second best. We still get a D. How is that possible? How is that possible? 1-866-95-PATRIOT.